The knock came at exactly 1:03 a.m. 3 slow taps echoed through my tiny apartment, just loud enough to pull me from a restless sleep. At first, I thought I had imagined it. Nobody visited me after midnight. Nobody even knew where I lived except a handful of friends. Then came 3 more knocks. I grabbed my phone from the nightstand. No missed calls. No messages. My heart pounded as I walked toward the door, every horror movie I'd ever watched replaying inside my head. Through the peephole, I saw a young woman standing alone in the hallway. Her long brown hair was soaked from the rain. She kept looking nervously over her shoulder. When she looked back toward my door, I recognized her. Lily? She was my best friend Ethan's younger sister. I unlocked the door just enough to peek outside. Before I could ask a single question, Lily stepped close, her face pale with fear, and whispered, "Don't say a word." Without waiting for permission, she slipped inside my apartment and quietly pushed the door shut behind her. For several long seconds, neither of us spoke. She stood perfectly still, listening. Only after nearly a minute did she finally let out the breath she'd been holding. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I know this makes no sense." "What happened?" I asked quietly. She shook her head. "Please, not yet." I noticed her hands trembling violently. Her jacket was torn near one sleeve, and fresh scratches marked one side of her arm. Whatever had happened tonight, it had terrified her. I handed her a towel and a glass of water. She accepted both with shaking hands. "You haven't told Ethan?" I asked. "I can't." "Why?" "Because he's the reason they're looking for me." Those words froze the room. My best friend? Ethan? That couldn't be right. Ethan was one of the kindest people I'd ever known. We'd been friends since college. He volunteered at shelters. He helped strangers fix flat tires. He once drove 4 hours just to help me move apartments. "Lily," I said carefully. "You're probably scared, but I know exactly what I'm saying." She looked directly into my eyes. "And I need you to trust me for just one night." Outside, headlights swept across the apartment window. Lily immediately dropped to the floor. "They found me." I carefully pulled the curtain aside just enough to peek outside. A black SUV rolled slowly past the building. It didn't stop. But neither of us relaxed until its taillights disappeared. "I've never seen that car before," I whispered. "You weren't supposed to." She finally sat on the couch. Her breathing slowly returned to normal. Then she told me everything. 2 weeks earlier, Ethan had asked her to keep a small metal lockbox in her apartment. He claimed it contained important business documents. She never questioned him. But yesterday curiosity got the better of her. She opened it. Inside weren't business papers. There were passports with different names. Stacks of cash. Several encrypted flash drives. And one notebook filled with dates, names, and payments. Before she could confront Ethan, someone broke into her apartment. She escaped through the fire escape with only one flash drive hidden inside her jacket. "They weren't looking for money," she whispered. "They wanted that drive." I stared at her. This sounded impossible. Yet the fear in her eyes couldn't be faked. Then my phone vibrated. "Ethan. Calling." Lily immediately shook her head. "Don't answer." The phone rang again. And again. Finally, it stopped. A text message appeared. "Have you seen Lily? She's missing. Please call me." I looked at the message. Then at Lily. Neither of us spoke. 5 seconds later another message arrived. "If she's with you, don't involve yourself. You don't understand what's happening." A cold chill ran down my spine. How did Ethan know she might be here? I had never told anyone my address except him. Another knock echoed through the apartment. This one louder. More confident. Liam, a familiar voice called through the door. It was Ethan. I know you're awake. Lily's face turned white. She silently backed toward the kitchen. Ethan knocked again. I'm worried about my sister. I walked toward the door but stopped several feet away. Is she there? Silence. Then his voice changed. Lower. Colder. If she's there, tell her this isn't the way to solve things. Lily pulled something from her jacket. The flash drive. She handed it to me. If anything happens, she whispered, don't let them have it. Before I could respond, the apartment lights suddenly went out. Everything became black. The entire building lost power. Outside, someone shouted. A car door slammed. Footsteps raced through the hallway. Then came another voice. Police. Open the door. Lily looked confused. So did I. Ethan hadn't called the police. Or had he? I slowly opened the door. 2 officers stood outside with flashlights. Behind them, Ethan raised both hands calmly. I told you she'd probably come here, he said. One officer turned toward Lily. Miss Carter, he said gently. We've been looking for you. She stared at him in disbelief. The officer continued. Your brother reported that someone has been following you for days. We arrested 2 suspects outside your old apartment tonight. Lily looked completely stunned. What? The second officer held up a badge from a federal investigative agency. The flash drive you're carrying contains evidence against an international identity theft and trafficking network. Your brother has been working undercover with us for nearly 18 months. Silence filled the apartment. Ethan finally stepped forward. I couldn't tell you, he said softly to Lily. If you knew the truth, your life would have been in even greater danger. Tears filled her eyes. You let me think you betrayed me. I needed them to believe that too. She began crying as Ethan hugged her tightly. For the first time that night, the fear disappeared from her face. I looked down at the small flash drive still resting in my hand. An ordinary piece of plastic. Yet it had nearly destroyed a family, and now, it might help save countless others. Sometimes the loudest acts of love aren't spoken at all. Sometimes they arrive with a quiet knock at 1 in the morning, followed by a whisper that changes everything. Don't say a word. The police escorted Lily and Ethan downstairs just before dawn, but none of us were ready to leave. The black SUV parked across the street had already been surrounded by federal agents. 2 men sat in handcuffs on the curb, their faces hidden beneath rain-soaked jackets. Flashing blue and red lights painted the wet pavement, turning the quiet neighborhood into a scene that felt more like a movie than real life. A senior investigator approached me and carefully took the flash drive from my hand. You did the right thing by protecting this, he said. What you're holding contains years of evidence, bank records, encrypted communications, fake identities, and locations of safe houses. This organization has stolen millions of dollars and destroyed countless lives. I looked at Ethan, still struggling to process everything. So, every strange business trip? Every missed birthday? Every excuse? He nodded with tired eyes. They weren't business trips. They were undercover operations. Every day I had to pretend to be someone I hated just to earn their trust. The hardest part wasn't the danger, it was lying to the people I love. Lily wiped away her tears. I thought you had become one of them. I wanted you to believe that, Ethan admitted. If anyone questioned you, your reactions had to be genuine. It was the only way to keep you alive. Before anyone could say another word, one of the agents received a radio call. His expression changed instantly. They've moved, he announced. Everyone became alert. What happened? Ethan asked. The leader escaped 20 minutes ago. The words landed like a punch. How? Ethan demanded. We found a hidden tunnel beneath one of the warehouses. He disappeared before the tactical team arrived. The agent turned toward Ethan. We believe he'll try to recover the backup files. There's a second storage device somewhere. Ethan looked at Lily. The notebook. Lily's eyes widened. I left it under my apartment floorboard. The investigator shook his head. Too late. We searched. It's gone. Silence settled over the group again. Then Lily suddenly gasped. No. Everyone looked at her. I remember now. She closed her eyes, replaying the previous evening in her mind. When I escaped, I thought someone was chasing me. But another woman was already inside my apartment. She wasn't searching for money. She grabbed the notebook before I climbed out the fire escape. Did you recognize her? The investigator asked. Lily nodded slowly. Our neighbor. But she'd lived next door for almost 3 years. The investigator exchanged a worried glance with Ethan. Then she wasn't your neighbor, he replied quietly. She was watching you. Hours later, federal agents surrounded the apartment complex, but the woman had vanished. Her apartment was empty. No furniture. No family photographs. No personal belongings. It looked as though no one had ever lived there. Only a single coffee mug remained on the kitchen counter. Inside it was a folded note. It read, "Too late." The investigation continued for weeks. News channels reported the arrests of dozens of criminals across several states. Millions of dollars in stolen assets were recovered. Families whose identities had been stolen finally began receiving answers. But the organization's mysterious leader remained missing. One evening, nearly a month later, Ethan invited Lily and me to dinner. For the first time in a long while, he looked relaxed. No disguises? I joked. He smiled. No more disguises. Lily laughed for the first time since that terrifying night. As we finished dinner, Ethan placed a small envelope on the table. Inside was a photograph. It showed the 3 of us from years earlier at a county fair, smiling without a care in the world. I kept this with me during every operation, he said. Whenever I wondered why I was risking everything, I'd look at this picture. Lily reached across the table and held his hand. I'm sorry I doubted you. You had every reason to, Ethan replied. Trust has to be earned again. Just then, Ethan's phone buzzed. He checked the screen, then smiled. What is it? I asked. The last suspect, he said quietly. They caught him trying to cross the border. Lily let out a long breath she had been holding for weeks. The nightmare was finally over. As we walked out of the restaurant into the cool evening air, I thought back to that rainy night, the desperate knock, Lily's frightened whisper, and the impossible choice between trusting my oldest friend or protecting his terrified sister. I realized that courage doesn't always look like chasing criminals or facing danger. Sometimes courage is opening your door at 1 o'clock in the morning, believing someone who has nowhere else to go, and standing beside them until the truth finally comes to light. That single whisper, "Don't say a word," had started the longest night of our lives. But it also led to justice, forgiveness, and a family finding its way back together.